Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 346 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is all in on yourself. Our quote of the day comes to us from Joe Namath. If you aren't going all the way, why go at all? So many of you have grabbed a copy of our new book, The Positivity Tribe, and for that, I'm so appreciative. We are super excited right now to announce that we have recently partnered up with Next Step Brands with some really cool Positivity Tribe merchandise. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can head on over to nextstepbrands.com. Our guest today is somebody that I've become very close with over the past few months. Clayton Snyder is not only a great guy, but recently he went all in on himself and his online coaching business. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Clayton, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
It's an honor. I've had the opportunity to connect with you over the last few weeks, and I appreciate you spending the time with us. As you know, the first question is, are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
I'm more than ready. Let's do it.
The follow-up question to that, as you know, is the no quit story. And I think it's interesting right now because I believe, as you shared before we started recording, is you're going through your no quit story now. So if you wouldn't mind just briefly sharing with the listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So my no quit story is I recently received a insurance job about a year ago, commercial insurance salesman. And about a couple months into it, I thought it was a job that I really wanted to do. I was super pumped, opportunity to make well into the six figures. I thought my boss is 35 years old. He's making $500,000 a year. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life and be able to have freedom and do whatever I want. And I really worked my ass off. And 6 months went by. I got promoted into my sales role. I was previously in a business development role. And I was literally just driving home from work. And I just felt this feeling of unfulfillment and almost this isn't what I'm meant to do, really. So I'm super passionate about fitness and really helping people. And one thing I always noticed when I was in my corporate building was that a lot of the people had very low energy. A lot of people were overweight. And so I was like, why don't I start an online fitness coaching business tailored around helping corporate 9-to-5 office workers? And so I started that the day after I got promoted, which was about 5 months ago. And I just built on the side whenever I wasn't at work and just worked my ass off. And just a few days ago, I was called into my boss's office and he asked me and he said, hey, I need a decision. Are you committed to this company or are you committed to your business? And by the grace of God, this month, I was able to surpass my income in my business more than my 9-to-5. And I said, I'm going all in on my business. So right now, I left the security of the biweekly paycheck and I'm going all in on myself. So that is kind of the no quit story that I'm currently going through.
There's so much we can unpack in that, and I appreciate your opportunity to share that. And I think there's so many ways we can go in, but I think the one thing I want to touch on and start with is the fact that you identified that this was not something after you've been into it. So you didn't try it for an hour or one afternoon. You really invested in it. And we've known each other for a while now. And I know the full backstory, but it was 5 months of you working on this business on the side and building it. And I think it's something that I really want to touch on because I think a lot of people find themselves in a similar situation. I don't mean exactly in the same field, but I mean in the situation of doing something and maybe you're financially successful, but there's something missing, or it's something that you don't want to look back 30 years from now and say, yes, I did well, but I didn't really enjoy it. And I don't mean in any way, shape, or form to to inspire somebody, a week into a job just to say, okay, this is not for
Hmm.
me. But the thing that I do want to touch on, I want to get your perspective is you didn't decide on a Monday night at 7:30 p.m. that you're going to be a fitness coach, an online fitness coach, excuse me, and then post it on Tuesday morning and say on social media that I'm an online fitness coach, and then just say, okay, how come I don't have 45 clients by lunchtime? You took 5 months building it. You shared with me a bunch of the stuff that you've invested in yourself. But I want you to just touch on that for a second, because I think so many people post something on social media, or they say, I'm going to be a coach now, or I'm going to be a trainer now. And I don't want to not knock anybody's goals or dreams, but just because you say you want to do something Monday at 7 p.m. doesn't mean that you're that thing the next day. So if you could just touch on over the last 5 months, because you've invested so much in yourself to get to the point where you are now, and to get to the point where you are able to financially make that switch.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think that you made a really good point with a lot of people think that they can just post once. And I think another thing that a lot of people struggle with is just starting something like something similar to what I'm doing, like an online coaching business, because they have these limiting beliefs that they think, oh, like I need to have thousands of followers on Instagram, or like I need to have these beautiful, like polished pictures and make sure that I look perfect so people will come to me and want to work with me. And like that's just not the case. Like a lot of these mega like influencers that you see on Instagram, like they're not like the most relatable people. And like one thing I told myself, I was like a limiting belief I really told myself when I first started was like, why would someone listen to me when they can listen to like a fitness influencer like Christian Guzman, like the owner of Alpha Lead, the really popular clothing company, or like Bradley Martin, a really famous YouTube star. And so that was one thing that was holding back from starting. And back to like what I did to really get to the point where I'm at now was it was waking up at 4 a.m. and working 4 hours until I had to go into my 9 to 5. And then I'd go to my 9 to 5 from 8:30 to noon. And then from noon to 1 on my lunch break, I was working on my business. And then when I go back to my 9 to 5, I was working 1 to 4. And in that time, I was strictly back in 9 to 5 mode. And then after that, I was for the rest of the night, I was back in my business. And just really kind of the point also where you talked about investing in yourself. Like I hired a mentor to where I'm part of the coaching group. That's kind of how we connected through the King's Council coaching group, through an entrepreneurship based through Christians. And the single best investment I ever made in myself was joining that group, because it surrounded me with people who were all extremely high performers and were all business owners. And it forced me to grow on my own and get out of my own comfort zone, because previously I was in a circle of friends that I would say that I was probably the more of the top dog in that group, where I was kind of complacent where I was at versus not really being pushed to grow. Versus when I joined this new group, I was at the bottom and I was like, I need to make sure I'm growing because I'm not where I want to be.
I think that that's so important. And you use the word complacency. And I think that's something that you can interchange the concept of comfort zone. We know where we're comfortable. We know where things are. We know what we have to do on a day by day basis. And I don't want to knock anybody for not wanting to, or investing in them, not wanting to invest in themselves, or taking the time to invest in themselves. But it's the concept and the idea of iron sharpens iron. And you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, which is a question that I ask each guest. We'll touch on that after. But if you wouldn't mind also just briefly discussing, because I know you also invested in yourself in addition to King's Council, into a fitness training program where it's taught you how to do the videos, how to do the ads, how to learn the sales and the different programs. And again, going back to what we said earlier, is within those past 5 months, you've invested so much time, money, and effort in yourself. But going back to what you said, I want to make sure our listeners understand. You talked about waking up at 4 a.m. so you can work on your side business before you went to your current job. Then you talked about your lunch hour where you said, okay, I don't have a ton of time during the day, but from 12 to 1, instead of eating or watching things on my phone or something, I'm going to work when I can. And then when you're done with your traditional job, you then worked on that. And that goes back to the first thing I said, which is it's not about just saying you're a coach or a trainer. It's putting in the work and investing in yourself. So touch on that for a second, because I think it's really important that it's about putting in that hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to mention that, so I apologize about the fitness coaching program. But when I joined the King's Council group, like that kind of like kickstarted me with more of like me starting the business. And then I realized, okay, like I need to niche down and really find a program that specializes in online fitness coaching, because I need to expedite this process. Because previously I tried doing a similar journey a couple of years ago where I dropped out of school for a short amount of time to try and build a fitness brand and work for a small startup company in the fitness industry. And I failed because I was working really, really hard, but I wasn't working smart. I didn't know what I was doing. So part of the fitness coaching program that I'm in, it's run by a man named Brian Mark, B Mark Fit on Instagram. And what his program really taught me was how to really attract the right people slash audience that you want to work with, how to tailor your messaging, and really, yeah, down to the sales. Because I was in a sales job previously, but selling fitness programs and online coaching is completely different than selling insurance. And it really, like, what it taught me was just the language of sales, how to present something, and etc.
Yeah, and I think that's a really strong point of view too. Is there are different types of sales, and I always find it interesting. People say, "Oh, I deal with all of sales," and yes, there are so many similarities within sales. But something you said is really spot on. Is attracting the right type of people, and I think so many people want to just attract clients. And yes, let's be honest, we
Hmm.
all need to have clients. But there's a fundamental difference that I've found in my many years being in the business world is there's the right client and then there's the really, really right client. And I think when you find those people that really and truly want and need your products and services, that's when you feel that your business goes to the next level. And it takes some people weeks, months, sometimes it takes people years. But going back to what Clayton said, take this perspective too is you went and said, okay, I need to identify this specific niche, which is an online fitness coaching business. So I'm going to specifically look for somebody that is successful and has a coaching program, and you went ahead and you invested in yourself. So kudos to you for doing that. If you had to define yourself, but you could only pick one word, what word did you pick?
Man, that's tough. I would say disciplined. I say I take a great pride in the amount of discipline I have for myself. And I mean, it's taken years to develop. Like it's not, as an online fitness coach for other people, like one thing that they struggle with is discipline. And I try and preach to them, like, it's not built overnight. Like it's literally built like years. It takes years of keeping promises to yourself. And like, that's why I believe the gym is just so parallel to all other areas in life, is like, if you can get really consistent in the gym and just apply those same tactics of going to the gym every single day, eating healthy, and you can translate that to your professional life. You realize, hey, I need to do these five critical tasks every single day in order to move the needle forward in my business. Like, there's no way you won't succeed.
Yeah, I think that is so true in all areas of life. But the discipline perspective of and what you said is it's not about doing it once. It's consistency. It's doing it over a week, over a month, and I think that's the missing point for a lot of people. They look at this as I have to be perfect all the time, and in the fitness world, I think you know more than others is it's not about being perfect. Anybody that we look up to and we watch
Hmm.
on TV or social media, I've never seen anybody that's come out and say, my name is so and so, or this is my company, and I'm perfect 24/7, 365. No, they talk about consistency, discipline. They talk about,
Hmm.
if you miss a meal or you miss a workout, you get up the next day and you get back on it. So thank you for touching on that. We often discuss books, you and I offline, and I'm curious if you're either reading something right now or perhaps you've read something recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the last podcast it got mentioned that you were on with Lexi, and I'm sure, I don't know if it's been mentioned on other ones, but "Winning" by Tim Grover is the best book I've ever read, the best personal development book I've ever read. I believe it's not for everyone, that it is very dark in some points throughout the book, and it might seem a little intense, but that's kind of how I am as a dude, and I know that's how you are as well. And I just think the way it's communicated, and obviously Tim Grover speaks for himself, being Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's trainer, like anyone who can train like those type of dudes, and like those type of dudes are willing to listen to him and apply, I'm all ears, like when it comes to that. And just the way that he describes different things throughout the book just hits with me differently.
Didn't you say the other day that you're rereading it again?
Yeah, I'm rereading it right now just because of the situation I'm in, like with my business and transitioning out of my 9 to 5. I believe that I need to reread it and kind of just absorb the information even more and apply it, because I just think it's so applicable, like all the tactics in the book to winning, like that I need to use in my season of my life right now.
I always find it interesting, the concept of rereading a book prior to winning. Have you reread other books for a second time, or and if so, have you done that for a specific reason or just to go back because you've enjoyed it?
Yes, absolutely. So there's one book that I've read like 5 times, and it's called High Performance Habits by Brendan Perchard. And it's also like not your typical personal development book, because there's like extremely like applicable like tasks like inside the book. Like he went through and interviewed like, I think like the top 100 like performers like in throughout like their different industries. And just the way like he described, like they all had similar like habits that they all use on a daily basis. And it's really good to just kind of go back and reread it. Like that is one book that I make like a conscious effort to reread like once a year usually.
It's such a fun question when I ask that to people, because I've heard all different things from people don't reread books. I've had some guests that actually share one in particular that he reads Think and Grow Rich every single year on his birthday, because he feels that it's kind of the culmination of. But I think that's interesting too. And I know for me, I've read a bunch of different books a second, a third, a fourth time. And I know that I always take something different away. And at a different season in life, I'll, gravitate towards something differently than at a different point. So I'm glad that you shared in that. Going back to our famous Jim Rohn quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most of your time with." If I could grant you dinner with any 5 people, dead or alive, that you could level up with and learn from, who would you pick?
That's also a really tough question. And I think the first time we ever spoke together, you asked me this, and I was like, I even like stumbled for a second. I was like, I don't know, but just off the top of my head, Jesus for sure, Hitler, Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant. I would say also Shaq, and my last one would be Derek Brooks.
Now, if you can't see the common theme, Clayton is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, so that's the Derek Brooks and the Tom Brady perspective. So, fun question I've asked, and especially during these last 19 to 20 very difficult months, is are there maybe 1 or 2 people that you follow on social media that put out either uplifting or motivational stuff that you'd like to recommend or potentially introduce to our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one that came to my mind immediately, and I'm sure he's been mentioned before, is Andy Frisella. I've listened to Andy since 2016 when the MFCEO project became a thing, and I'm actually affiliated with First Form now, and I've taken their products for a really long time. It's a really popular supplement company. Andy is the CEO of that company. He now runs a podcast called Real AF, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting him last weekend, which was freaking awesome. And just also he has a very like intense communication style, and the way he delivers things, I believe, just kind of I receive differently versus other people in the personal development space. So Andy Frisella for sure. Number two, I think, would be Sean Whalen, who's the owner of Lions Not Sheep, the clothing company. Sean Whalen also is just really big on investing in yourself. Like that's one like of the things that he talks about like all the time. And that's just something that I really relate to, because I believe investing in yourself is really the best investment we can make. Like I think a lot of people really, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, like invest, like spend so much time focusing on investing in stuff like Bitcoin and stocks, like which is great, like I said, but like if you're not investing in yourself first, like in really getting yourself in the right spot emotionally, physically, like I believe that those other things like should come second to you versus investing in yourself?
Gotta unpack that for a second because there's so much in there. But the difference of investing in yourself in the personal development world or just a topic, an idea, a concept versus the stock market or investment world or investing in a second or third investment property. It's not to say that one is better than the other. And I don't think anybody, or I sure as heck won't say when you have to do that or why you have to do that at certain ages. But I'm always intrigued by people that I've gotten the opportunity to connect with. And when I get the opportunity to ask them different questions, I find out that a bunch of them have done different coaching programs. They've had different mentorships. They've been in different masterminds. They've done things such as Toastmasters or BNI, which is networking. And all those things are ways in which you can invest in yourself. And I want to also get your point of view is I think where technology is today, if you go back 10, 15 years, if you wanted to learn more from, let's say, Zig Ziglar, what you had to do is you had to physically go to a seminar that's in maybe a different part of the country and invest in the seminar and the cost getting to and from there. And the reality is some people can't afford that. But where technology is today, you can invest in yourself in so many different ways. So if you could just touch on that for a second, is not just the investment of hiring a coach or doing a program, but also the little things that you can do each and every day. Because I know you truly believe in those because we've had conversations about podcasts, about YouTube videos. So if you could just touch on that for a minute, the importance of investing in yourself in not only the ways you shared before, but also how you do it in different ways too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that really like has like become a foundation for me, but since I did 75 hard is reading 10 to 20 pages a day. And that's something I do every single morning. It's almost like a non-negotiable for me. And I believe that's one great way of investing in myself because like had a season in my life where I stopped reading for like a little bit. And I noticed that, I mean, obviously once you stop reading, you stop learning, which is, we can always be learning. And the gym is another great way of investing in yourself. That's been a foundation in my life for years. And those are really the two that I've found just when it really comes to that. And back to kind of the conversation I wanted to talk on that with you talked about the phone is there's so many people that are really like unfulfilled with like their current situation in life, their current job, and many other reasons. And it's like this device that we have right here that I'm holding up right now. You guys can't see it, but you can literally create any sort of monetize your passion in any way you want. And it's just a matter of really putting in the time and figuring out how to do it. Maybe it's finding a mentor, maybe you just going on YouTube and figuring out ways to different ways to do it. But I think a lot of people overthink it when it comes to that. Like when it comes to really investing in yourself and thinking that, hey, like you're on your phone. Most people, like I'd say probably 95% of the population are on their phone just scrolling like aimlessly for hours every single day. And it's like, if you're really unfilled in your situation, like why don't you use that time and really build like something on the side that could maybe eventually like take over something that you're not really the most passionate about right now?
That's a really good point. I have a interesting follow-up question to that. I know so many people and I have friends and people that I've become close with over the last many years that don't know exactly what they want to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that in any way, shape, or form. I think if somebody was, 95 years old and, they never did anything, that'd be a different conversation. But do you have maybe a suggestion or idea for somebody that is listening to this and they're saying to themselves, I don't really know what I want to do, where Clayton, for example, knew that it was something in the fitness world and then he discovered online fitness coaching and that's what it was that he really was passionate about. Is there a suggestion, idea that maybe you could give to a listener that they're not sure exactly, maybe they have some ideas or maybe some fields, but maybe you could share something that might pique their interest or the way they're going about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing popped out to me as soon as you just said that. And I think if it's like you see something like consistently and it kind of like irks you like inside a little bit, if that really makes sense. Like for me, like I always knew like when I saw someone in the office building that was like really low energy and like I saw that they were like overweight, like it bugged me because I was like, I've been in that situation before, like where I wasn't comfortable with how I looked and I knew like I wasn't the most confident I could be. And I have empathy for that person. And I was like, I want to help him and like make sure that he gets like healthy and he gets in like a better mental space. And another way is too, I know Gary Vee says this a lot, is just to like try different stuff. Like if you're unaware of like what you really want to do, just start tasting in different areas. Like everyone has something. I know that you're interested in something like, and it's like you can monetize that. And it's just really just kind of being willing to try different things.
I love that. I didn't know where you're going with the second piece with Gary Vee, because Gary Vee obviously touches on a bunch of things. But the first thing that you said, it really hit me because I'm a big fan of the show Shark Tank, and one of the things that not only Mark Cuban but a bunch of the different sharks talk about is find a problem or find an area where you see that there's an opportunity, and then figure it out in the sense of trying different things. And I think you hit on something, two things actually. So for any of our listeners, if you're in that space where you're not sure, the first thing is try different things. It's not about trying everything, but it's about trying different things. And the other thing is if you see an area where maybe people or businesses are struggling, that's maybe an opportunity. And where Clayton just shared is that's what he saw in his prior work environment, is people that were working at desks and things and not having energy and not being in the best of shape, then said, okay, what could I do to fix this? Or the word he used is help. So challenge you guys within that space. For anybody that wants to follow you or connect with you or maybe even discuss hiring you or just picking your brain, what's the best way for them to connect with you and follow you?
Yeah. So they can follow me on Instagram. That's the best way you can reach me at c.snyder, Snyder, coaching.
And I know for a fact Clayton is extremely responsive in that as well. One more question to ask in regards to the online perspective and maybe sharing a little bit of your secret sauce, but you've been very specific about the type of clients you want to retain. So maybe do you have a suggestion for people that are struggling with really getting the right clients? And maybe a second part to that is how did you identify really who your ideal client is?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people in my space, or maybe just the coaching space in general, will come onto the platform and they'll just start posting almost like as a generalist. And it's like when you do that, you severely like you're in a big pool because everyone is posting like similar content when you're not niching something specific down. Like there's a million people who are posting like motivational posts daily. There's a million people who are posting fitness content daily. And it's like when you're just kind of aimlessly throwing stuff out there and you're not attracting a specific niche, like then your chances of succeeding are very low. Like so for me, like what I do with my content is I literally specifically message like I'm talking to someone in an office building because I was once in an office building and I saw like why there were certain reasons that people like weren't like achieving their fitness goals like they should be. So it's about like putting out the right messaging out there so you attract the most ideal client. So for me, like my ideal client are people with busy lives, like busy salesmen, like real estate, insurance salesmen, or just people who are working office jobs in general. So I make sure that I tailor my content around that messaging. And it's crazy. Like when you start to do that, like you will have people reach out to you. Like I had a video that I posted the other day. It was an Instagram reel. It was me doing a hex bar deadlift compared to like a barbell deadlift. And I said, hey, if you're sitting in an office all day, like the hex bar deadlift is a much better option for you because you're much more prone to back injuries if you're doing a standard barbell deadlift and you're not the most experienced lifter. So a great alternative to the standard barbell deadlift is the hex bar deadlift because it's much easier on your back. So that is just like a specific example that I use like on my content to like attract more of like that audience.
That's a really good point. I appreciate you touching on that. And it is something that we all struggle with in the idea of who's our client, who's our ideal client. And then when you identify them, it's going after them with the right strategy and using the right content. But going back to a word you said is being disciplined to be consistent enough. So I appreciate you touching on that. The last question we ask each guest is if you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our list today.
Yeah, man, I would just say that, my life has changed drastically in the last 6 months, and it's just all from making one decision. And you just gotta start. It's with something. If you're not, if there's something constantly on your heart, and you think about it every single day and you just feel unfulfilled in your situation, and you just have this idea and you just keep telling yourself I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know how I'm going to make money doing it. How long is it going to take? It's literally just one decision. And I promise you, if you make that one decision and you surround yourself with people who are pushing you to get better, you will succeed. You have no choice to succeed as long as you don't quit. That is the big kicker that a lot of people, like you mentioned earlier, when we were talking, they post once and they're like, why don't I have 40 to 50 clients or whatever? And it's no, you have to just focus on winning the day every single day and not looking 6 months down the road and thinking, oh my God, if I'm not doing X amount of income in 6 months, don't worry about the income, worry about the amount of people that you're impacting on a daily basis. And then the income will come after that.
I think that's a fantastic way to end today's episode, is focusing on the impact, focusing on helping first, and then the income will come second. Appreciate that. I appreciate you, and I know that you and I will connect again soon.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to episode number 346. Clayton touched upon some really key things today. The whole concept of investing in yourself is something that I know firsthand is incredibly important for making improvements in any and all areas of your life. I know many people are not fully vested, nor do they truly enjoy their job. But unfortunately, most of them don't end up doing anything about it. Clayton did, and I'm so proud of him for putting in that work. To end today's episode, I would like to challenge each of you to go all in on yourself, whether it's a fitness goal, something with your family, personally, or maybe something professionally or a business or an idea that you've wanted to try. Stop waiting and start doing. And start today by taking that first step to go 100% all in on you. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.